Max, please.
Jack wrote...
Lowercase M, lowercase Max, and Mangeli.
Jack wrote, I'm on the page. Where's the show? And also, Joey Cola is watching. Testing,
Joey
1,
Cola's
2.
watching. He's great. One of my favorite comedians.
I don't hear anything through the mic, by the way.
Jackie the Joke Man is watching.
Oh, he's watching.
We better be funny.
Nick
Time to
Carmen Cosentino.
How are you seeing all this?
It's on my phone.
Doug and Tom, you are live.
Oh, no, Joey Cola was on the November 26th show.
He's not on now?
No.
Oh.
Testing. We still don't have mics.
Testing, 1, 2.
Testing. Okay, thank you. We're live.
Wait a minute. We don't know if we're live. You
It
know
says
that.
you're live on the screen. Read it.
It's spelled Y-O-U-R. That's not your live.
What? It makes it invalid
It's
because the
something
spelling
about
is
you've
wrong?
got the live insect
It's supposed
or
to say
something.
you are apostrophe E. You are live.
Thank you, people out there.
Welcome to our quarreling in Hamilton Studios in Robbinsville, New Jersey. You're watching or listening to Funny Talk with Mangeli and Max. I'm Tom Mangeli.
He's Tom Mangeli.
And he's Doug Max.
And I'm Evan Weiss.
That's Evan Weiss.
And we have Evan Weiss in
You
the
forgot
studio.
about me.
I didn't forget. I was getting to you.
Okay.
Tom, who's that guy?
That's Evan Weiss.
Oh, I thought you
Why?
forgot about
You
me.
don't know about Evan Weiss?
What do you think I should know about Evan Weiss?
Well, Evan Weiss is our in-studio guest tonight, and we're going to be doing a tribute for Otto Petersen of Otto and George, who has passed away.
Oh, I'm here for the George tribute.
What's that?
I'm here for the George tribute.
Okay, that's okay.
Can we just do the George tribute?
He was. I
sharing it.
am told on the authority of Otto's sister that George was a brat. So I don't know if we should really honor him.
He was the dirty
But
part of the
honor-
team.
he
He was the
was-
funny part.
It was
No,
the
he was
punchline.
filthy.
We should just honor George. Forget about Otto.
No, Otto.
He was the funny part of the team. We should just honor George.
I
See,
never
for
got
the-
to meet Otto, but I've seen so many of his videos.
we should
And
just
I've
get
heard
the
so
doll
many
and honor
stories.
George.
And we're
Forget-
honored tonight to have many people who were closely associated with Otto and George. And for those of you who don't know, go online and Google Otto, O-T-T-O, and George.
Especially George, the funny part of the team.
Stop it, Evan. Okay, you're going to be the second person ever who is not invited back. And didn't we already not invite him back last time? Yeah.
I snuck in.
We're not going to talk about that, but I do want to mention that the other guests calling in tonight are Rich Carucci,
the steamroller of comedy.
Keith Carnevale, Chips Cooney,
Yeah,
and possibly Lona.
Lona may call in.
Lona
she
is,
working
Otto's
tonight, but
sister.
she's honored that we're
yeah, all great
doing
comics
it
who
for
didn't
Otto.
come in. And you honor.
What great comics didn't come in? You came
Things
in,
happen.
Evan. And I was telling you earlier. He goes, "Who's funnier, me or Tom?" I'm like, Evan, you don't have to. You know you're funnier. Everybody that knows Evan thinks
No competition.
No, I said fatter. I said who's fatter.
it's my. But you know my being hard of hearing goes redounds to
Who's
your
fatter? I said who's fatter.
Anyway, Funny Talk with Mangeli and Max is brought to you by our sponsor.
J. Irwin Productions.
If you want a comedy show, a fundraiser, a private comic to come and perform in your bathroom because you're some kind of freaking weirdo, what should they do, Tom?
They should contact Jack at jirwinproductions.com.
I contacted him. He still hasn't booked me.
We'll put in a word
I
for
keep
you.
contacting him. He still hasn't booked
We'll put
me.
in
I
a
don't know
word.
why. How many times do I have to send him videos?
He already has a fat comic.
Oh, all
You've
right.
been sending videos?
Well, stop. You better stop going to Weight
Wait,
Watchers.
Okay, so far the show is going very orderly, Tom. Something's about to happen.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Your
somebody's calling.
your phone is ringing. That's what's about to happen. Another bill collector?
Hey, Rich, Carucci, you're sort of on the air, but you're calling me on my private cell phone.
Okay, so how do I, what's the number for
609 807 2492.
Sorry.
That's okay, buddy. We'll talk to you
And
soon.
we have Rich
This is
Carucci about to call in.
Live radio.
You should just have him call, leave him on speaker. That's what's the difference.
I
Speaker,
could have.
I don't even know her.
It's he kills him with these jokes.
Now, your mic is number 3.
How does that come across, you think, Fidelity? Does it sound like I'm a good harmonica player?
I think you are.
Die.
Welcome to our friends in desert lands.
Doug learned this in prison. He learned a few other things in prison.
I
Otto-
got a bum rap.
If Otto was alive, he'd kill himself.
He's spinning in his grave right now.
Okay, hang on.
But anyway, we have 3. Have you ever seen Otto in person?
Oh, many times.
Yeah?
Many. He was
Now,
such.
what was so great? Everybody has glowing things to say about him.
You got a phone, you got a caller,
Is that we have a quote?
and fix the name Funny Talk with Mangelli and Max.
Would you stop with that already? Who cares?
It's the name of our show.
So what?
They can get it, Mangelli and Max. You get credit, I get credit.
You're interrupting our
Have-
guest
Who's our guest?
over punctuation.
Is he on the phone? Is Carucci on the phone?
He'll be calling in a second.
Oh, okay.
But
All right, tell us what's the appeal of
Oh,
excuse me, what's this with punctuation is unimportant?
Doug, shut up. Evan, you're on.
Otto was the nicest guy, and he'd come across as so sweet and innocent. Literally, he'd like, even before the movie Forrest Gump, he'd literally be like so sweet on stage, and then all of a sudden George would be like, "Suck that cock, you filthy whore."
Now, for those viewers and listeners who don't know, George is his puppet, his ventriloquist puppet.
And like after years and years, he would just move his mouth, and people wouldn't even care.
Uh-huh.
People wouldn't even care. But he was like,
I've heard him say like, "Yeah, I know I'm moving my mouth. Shut up." And he would use George had a filthy mouth.
Yeah.
but he got into such confidence. He would started out as a street performer. He did this on the
Right.
street for many years. Like,
We have pictures if they put
And,
them up.
he started when he was very young too.
yeah, one time he got stabbed. He got stabbed through. They stabbed the puppet, and he got stabbed through his hand.
Oh,
And he had like stitches through his hand. They got so mad at him.
wow.
Yeah, and like one time he was like, I think he was
we got a
in
call now.
Brooklyn, and my friend who's a comic in L.A. now, Tim Hamune, and comic, he's doing his act, and he's mouthing like, "I'm gonna like kill you," and he's rubbing his gun while he's on stage. "I'm gonna
Wow.
kill you," and he's rubbing his gun throughout his whole set. "I'm gonna kill
That's
you."
pretty scary.
Yeah, it's rubbing his gun as Otto's on stage.
Wow. Speaking of
And-
Otto, we have to put you on hold because we have a phone call.
I wonder who it is.
caller.
Hello, caller.
I wonder if it's Otto.
Caller, who are you?
Hey, it's Carucci.
Hey, Carucci, the steamroller of comedy, Rich Carucci, everyone. How you doing?
Did I call the wrong number again?
No, you got the right number. So,
Man, I would mess up anything, I'll tell you.
Well, thank you for calling. All right, so let's get back to our Rich. Seriously, tell us. Do you remember when you met Otto, or when did you recognize Otto was special? We'll put it that way.
When I first started doing comedy, I started getting booked on shows, and when I first started doing comedy, I started looking at as much information for comedy as I could. And even right before I got into comedy, I used to see these pictures in like Steppin' Out magazine or something of Otto and George, and they were these terrible black and white photos that made them look like just evil. And I'm like, I gotta meet this guy. So I finally met him, did a couple of shows. He was there, And it was just, I mean, from the first time you see him, it's just amazing. You're like, holy mackerel. And every time you see him, it's just, I mean, every time you see him, it was special. So I worked with him a couple of times, and I was in awe of him. And everybody was like, Otto, Otto, Otto. So I finally was doing a show once with him that I knew I could get some people to. So I invited a bunch of my friends to it, and they all paid $20 to come see him. So back then, Howard Stern's guys had a group called the Murderers Row, and they used to travel together. So we all were working together on a show. Back then, there was like 10 comics on the show or something like that. All these guys went up before Otto, and they were filthier and filthier than the next guy, and they were trying to outdo each other. So Otto was getting pissed by the second.
Oh, no.
He goes up, and he goes on stage. He might have been up there for like 3 minutes, and he goes, you know what? Fuck this. He goes, get your refunds out the door. I'm done. And he storms off stage.
Wow.
And that was the end of the show. So my friends, left, and then I saw Otto at the next couple of days later, or a week later, I was at another show, and Otto was there, and he goes, hey, I'm sorry what happened. He goes, tell your friends to come see me another time, and I'll do an extra special show. And I went, hey, man, don't worry about it. I'm even surprised. I swear to God, I couldn't even believe he knew who I was or that my friends were even there.
Wow.
But that's when I first met Otto. That was how I met him.
Okay. Cool story.
So everybody says Otto is really sweet, and Lona told me George was regarded as a brat. I think she was being polite.
If you notice, Otto's the most borrowed from comic ever. I mean, his phrases turn. He's worked with so many people over the years, from Tim Allen to everybody. I mean, he had the best stories about everybody. Rodney Dangerfield, Dice, everybody. I mean,
You're putting
it's
it nicely,
amazing.
borrowed from.
He's so borrowed from. It's even people on TV that are hosts will say something. Jay Moore actually has quoted Otto. I mean, a lot of people do. I mean, it's just he has big fans. Kevin Spacey turned David Copperfield. I think he turned David Copperfield on to Otto. Kevin Spacey called David Copperfield, made him listen to Otto. Then David Copperfield flew Otto out to one of his islands to do a private show. Matter of fact, Copperfield owns the original George.
Oh,
I
is that
asked
right?
Lona
Really?
what happened to him, and she said we don't know. So that's interesting.
The new George.
Oh,
The original George was bought. If you see the old George to the new George, big difference and very expensive. And David Copperfield actually has a museum in one of his houses on one of the islands.
yeah, we
of
saw.
all ventriloquists and puppets. And then he was telling Otto that he was giving him a tour, and at the end it was one whole room just for George by himself. It was amazing.
Anyway, son of a bitch,
Keith
though.
went with Otto and filmed it, so it's all on film.
Wow.
I gotta say though, I wrote to David
Jeff Dunham,
Copperfield.
I forgot to say, Jeff Dunham, Copperfield told Otto, he said, I had Jeff Dunham here. And he said he looked through this whole thing, wasn't impressed by anything except right here. And that's when he brought Otto into the room with George,
Wow.
where he has a whole shrine of the George. And he goes, he couldn't take his eyes off it. Because everybody's in awe of Otto, believe me. He lived the life everybody wanted. He did whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted, for whatever he wanted. If he didn't want to work for you, he didn't. And if he worked for you and wanted to work next door, he'd work next door. He did. If he wanted to leave in the middle of a tour, he would just leave. He did whatever the hell he wanted.
Wow. Now, he started pretty young, right?
He started as a young child with as a little kid. He had a dummy, but he started as a street performer as a teenager. Not even a teenager. He was a kid, and he always told me all I ever wanted to be in my life was a street performer.
Wow.
And I'm way past that. And he was.
Yeah.
I mean, he would be in a stadium one day and a corner pub the next day, and he was so excited about. We had certain gigs we did every year together, a few of us, and he looked so forward to those because he knew we were all going to be hanging out and having a good time. And those weren't the ones that paid the best. We do one every Christmas now, every December, We have a Toys for Tots in
Right.
Brooklyn at the Bullseye Tavern,
Uh-huh.
and it just moved to a new location of Bullseye last year. We've been doing that show. Otto used to do that show every year. Now that he's passed on, we do that show every year in his honor. It's
Wow.
a big show. We raise money. We get jackets. The guy makes a bottle of homemade booze, and it's in a bottle with Otto and George's picture on it.
Oh,
I mean, Otto was amazing. I mean, if Norton used to be the guy that used to drive Otto around. If you note, there were a lot of people that have been Otto's openers that drove him around, and one of them was Norton back in the day. And if you see
Wow.
Norton's act, he kind of is like it's. I'm not saying they ripped it off, but it's kind of like George. He seems like he's like the real version of George, doesn't he?
Who is this?
Jim
Jim
Norton.
Norton.
Jim Norton.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's how I see it. I go, he used to open for Otto. He's kind of like, the dummy, because Otto would get away with everything because it didn't come from him. It came from George.
Right.
So, I mean, somebody actually stabbed the puppet one time while Otto was wearing it.
yeah, we heard that story.
Evan was just telling us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I mean,
somebody who was going to be on the
People
show
have
was
flipped
there.
out. I mean, but he got away with so much because it didn't seem like it was coming from him. I mean, I've seen him just go berserk, but like he'd be ripping people apart in the audience. It's just, he was brilliant. I mean,
But-
his crowd work plus his material, it's just,
But
every
Rich,
time you saw him, you'd see him do new stuff, and I must have saw him a couple of hundred times, and he always added new stuff, and he would make jokes that we would have on the way up there in the car. He'd be saying them on stage, and
Rich,
you never got to see him live, man. It's a shame. It really is, because nobody will ever do what he did ever.
You know,
again.
I started right after he died. I was
Rich,
you know,
at
it
at
was
the end
very
of his
sad.
life, he got sober, but many years he had problems with the drugs, right?
Yeah, he did.
And-
Yeah, we all did. I
and-
mean, I spent a lot of time on the road with him too, and
And
You know, but
not to bring it up, but like you
Not
said,
to bring it up.
no,
Not
but
to bring. This isn't how you not bring it up, Evan.
but what was hysterical about him, like when you say if he didn't want to do a gig, he would literally not do a gig in the middle of his set. He would walk out in the middle of
Yes,
his
he
set
would.
if he wasn't
Yep.
if he wasn't
He did.
feeling it 15 minutes in. He said, "Have a good night, goodbye, everybody."
So what if the audience wasn't appreciating
he
him,
would
or if he
wasn't
wasn't
feeling it, he'd walk out in the middle of his set.
Wow.
Or like sometimes clubs or bars would have to have backup comics just in case he wasn't feeling it.
They've
you
been
know.
doing that with me because I've been getting a lot tougher.
Rich is laughing. Tell him.
And you know what I wanted to say before? I wanted to say, son of a bitch, David Copperfield. I wrote to him like 3 times to try to get him to fly me out to the island to see the museum. 3 times I wrote to him.
We're in the
Nice
middle of our
letters.
podcast right now.
Hold on, he's on the
You
phone.
loved Otto.
Mangeli's on the phone. Hold on.
Yeah, Rich, can you hang on, Tom's?
on the phone.
This is our radio show, Tom.
I got a phone call from somebody I never hear from.
Who's that?
You want to leave and take it? We
No,
can.
no.
Rich, how long you good for? Can you fill in for Tom for a little bit?
I'm getting booty calls
Yeah.
by 80-year-old
What's going-
women
yeah.
now.
So I would see him at these bars, and like if he wasn't feeling it, he would like do 15 minutes and walk out, and that's it. You just okay, that's it.
I'm going to start doing that at your shows, Evan. I'm going to do 15 minutes
Actually,
and like walk
actually, Copperfield flew him in, and he did like 15 or 20 minutes. He did a private show,
Wow.
and Copperfield's like, "That's it." I'm not kidding.
out. Give me a little. You fly me out. That's 15 minutes.
Tim Allen once flew him into Vegas
Oh, yeah?
for a private bachelor party. So I mean, Otto had big fans, you know.
You know,
So what do we got to do? What do we got to do to get in on some of this?
Didn't Dice steal the nursery rhymes from him, right?
Yeah,
really?
that's what the story
Wow.
is.
The famous nursery rhymes.
Wow,
And
that made his career.
yeah, and he talked about it on Opie and Anthony. He talked about it before he passed.
This is the Comic Inquirer.
Yeah.
You know, Rich, there are a lot of comics who I never got to see before they died. Otto is one of my regrets that I never got to see him.
Yeah. I believe me. It's it was
Wait.
amazing. I mean,
And
last time I saw him was the Valentine's Day before he passed. We had a gig together, and that was the last time I saw him. I talked to him a lot of times after that, but
Yeah.
that was the last time I saw him in person. And he was sober then, and he was miserable.
Oh.
But like, he had such a draw. This was before like the internet was like really as predominant as it is now. People would have these shitty flyers, and you post it in the corner of a bar, and the bar would fill up to people standing room only with these shitty flyers.
Hey, Rich, we got to get rid of you so we get our next call pretty soon. I don't want to be rude, but do you have a favorite joke story that you could share with us in a pseudo family friendly-ish way?
Yeah, I just I did so much road work with him. It was always he hated to talk shop in the car. He loved the Beatles. Okay, here's a good story. We go to see Don Jameson. I go to see him at Port 47 back in the day, or 57. It was next to the Port Authority in New York, this real crap hole where they did like weird acts, and the girls were in these horrible bikinis that didn't match that worked there with pale white skin. But anyway,
I know
Don
that place.
Jameson's in this thrash band, so I go to see him. As I get to the place with my wife, I look, I go, Otto, what are you doing here? Otto was there, and Otto and Florentine were there hanging out because they're Florentine and Jameson are partners. And Otto and Florentine are very close. So I'm like, holy mackerel. So we're hanging out. So we go in the back room to see Jameson sing, and it's like War meets, I don't know, Nirvana, or it's just some weird stuff. We're in there for 2 seconds. Otto's putting cigarette butts in his ear. She's like, I can't take this. I like the Beatles. So I thought that was funny. But, hey, I don't want to take up any more time, guys. Thanks for having me.
Rich, thank you so much for calling. Rich
Thanks for
Carucci,
being
everyone.
had.
Very funny.
Rich Carucci. Look for him on Facebook.
Thank you. Good night, guys.
Good night, Rich.
Thank
Thanks.
you for calling.
Yeah, I saw something on, I guess it was YouTube, about Otto being interviewed by Joe Franklin. Remember the Joe Franklin
Of course.
show?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's pretty big
Is
time.
You know what's
Joe
great?
Franklin died recently, didn't he?
No, that was quite a
back.
few years. You know what's great? He, after years and years, he finally got on Letterman. Did you ever see his Letterman?
Yes, I did.
And he was somewhat somewhat dirty on Letterman, but he was passable on Letterman. You know.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't cursing, but he got away with enough
Yeah.
on Letterman, which was impressive.
So Fred Rubino, wonderful, I was going to say Jewish comedian, New Jersey comedian.
Well, he's in Florida now. But
Is he? Maybe he's converted.
he's-
Thank you, Fred.
Why?
So we're expecting. Oh, so just to remind, we're going to hear from Keith Carnevale, who also goes way back with Otto,
Right.
and Chip Scooney, who probably goes the earliest back.
Well,
back in the
Chips-
Jesus
Wonderful
days.
America's Got Talent. Yeah,
Chips actually lived with him. They were roommates.
That's right. That's right. I remember that. Yep.
How old is Chips? He's old.
He's not. He's only 18. He just had a rough life.
1800.
You're as young as you feel, and he's chipper, so he's got a great name.
I love him. Such a great guy.
He's out there. Old.
He's on America's Got Talent. You see that?
Yeah.
I
I just
saw
booked him
both.
for a show for next month.
Oh, great.
Yeah, he's gonna
Love
do
him.
He's gonna do his magic.
He's
act.
such a
book-
great guy.
You book Chips for a show.
Come on, I've booked you. We just did a show last month.
I know.
You know, it'd be great if
Evan is mouthing the words, book me. Book me. Screw Doug Max. Book me. Oh, by the way, we didn't apologize to our audience if they've been offended by anything that Evan has said.
And if you haven't, you will.
I didn't say anything
night-
about
the
it.
night
Kidding,
is young.
Evan. I'm kidding.
The night
You've
is
been a guest this whole time. Don't worry.
You've been wonderful.
You've been funny.
What Jack said, Brooklyn, not Florida.
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Oh, yeah, you were saying
Fred
Rubino?
Fred
Rubino
Rubino
is from Brooklyn,
Fred.
not Florida.
You said Jersey, but he lives in Florida now. I think he moved to Florida.
Did he?
Yeah, but he comes back up.
And he's not Jewish with the name like Rubino.
Fred. No, he's
That's
Italian.
Italian. He's
Italiano.
Thank God. We have a phone call. Hello, caller. You're on the air with Funny Talk with Mangelli and Max. Maybe. Hello, phone caller. You're on.
Hello.
Yes, are you there?
Yes, Keith Carnevale calling.
Good. We're here.
How you doing, Keith?
Hey, buddy.
I'm well. How's everybody?
Good,
How are you,
good.
Keith?
Good to hear from you. Thanks for calling in.
So we just got off the phone with Rich Carucci. You may or may not
Yeah.
have heard. If you start telling
I
a
was-
story he told, we're just going to tell you go to another story.
So tell us.
No, I just did a show with Carucci up in Rochester
Oh yeah.
How was he?
on Saturday.
You
It was
can talk
horrible
about him.
because
He's
it was a
off.
month. No, the show was good. It was. If Rich Carucci's listening, fuck you, Rich Carucci, for doing 90 miles an hour in a monsoon all the way up to Rochester, New York.
Ouch.
And this is family-friendly Funny Talk with Mangelli and Max.
I'm sorry.
They don't listen. Listen, honestly, in Ethiopia, I don't think they understand. So you're fine.
So Keith, tell us your connection with Otto.
With Otto was at I met him at a Joe Piccoli gig. If anyone knows that name.
Yep.
Up and one of those horrible basement gigs, and he was doing he was doing the show, and Piccoli calls me a week later, says, "Can you pick Otto up? He needs a ride to do the show again." And I picked him up, and then we started talking, and that's why I met him. I met him through a Joe Piccoli gig.
Oh, nice.
Does Piccoli do comedy anymore?
Who?
Does Joe Piccoli do comedy still?
I don't know. I think he fell off the earth.
I know he's a barber, isn't he?
Yeah, he was a barber in McCutcheon, in the restaurant across the street is where he had the comedy show.
Because I know he used to open for Otto.
Yeah, him and Ali used to they used to go all over the place, those two, for a while.
Now you've worked with Otto, right?
Yeah, I worked with Otto quite a bit. I was considered his last driver, the last guy to drive him around to all the shows.
Nice.
Yeah, so he took me to Florida. He took me all over the place.
Cool.
Keith, can I ask you? We have a friend with a puppet who's very close with the puppet. Did George ever, come out when you were like at the diner about to go to a club? Never.
Now, George. Now, I would go to Otto's house, hang out. The puppet was in the road case, tucked away in the closet. He
So
always looked at the puppet like it was a carpenter with a tool. Like that was it.
yeah, I understand.
That was his tool. He took it out when he needed it. He put it away when he had to.
No Twilight Zone episodes going on.
But everybody says Otto was the sweetest man, and George was like what's a polite word for it?
Devil.
The devil, a brat. Lona calls him a brat. So what was with the? Where did George come from? Were you around when I guess when you met him, he was already established?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was his uncle George Dudley. That's where George came from. Otto had an uncle called George Dudley, and he was just someone Otto looked up to. Otto grew up basically without a father. His mother, raised a single mother raised with another brother and a sister. So he had an uncle George Dudley that was part of his life, I think, and he, that's where he got the name for George from.
Ah, interesting. I never knew that.
And where did he get the persona? How did he come upon George being such a, foul-mouthed alter ego?
I think he just took it as a twist of just making the puppet just go off the deep end, angry, crazy, extreme. Because if you're going to go to a puppet show, you're going to see some dumb, easygoing, likable puppet. He just made it an angry puppet, which he thought was him. He thought it was funny.
It is funny.
Was something,
Clearly
shocking, which
to
it was.
many.
Completely shocking.
Now it kind of reminds me of Robert Smigel and the Triumph, the dog.
Yeah, the angry dog. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Right?
So, I mean, if you want to consider Otto as a, probably an influence for that, because it was just an insulting, say what you want to say, you don't care what the people think.
Right. All right. Well,
It also reminds me of Obama's anger translator, too. The person that says what you're really thinking.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
You don't know Obama's anger translator?
No.
Is this a bit on?
But was it Michael Key? Who was it? Keegan?
Oh yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
said next to
Obama would say, "My
yes.
fellow Americans," and he'd be the anger translator. Listen up, bitch. Yeah. Anyway.
Anyway.
Oh, Otto was like he was off. I mean, George was off the hook. Did Otto separate himself like psychologically from George?
Of course he did. Yeah,
Did he
like
have
I said
that
earlier,
side
he
of
looked at
him?
that puppet as a tool.
But did
And-
you see that side of Otto without George?
Oh no!
Would he
No,
rail
I never
against
seen
him or
I never seen Otto get like George crazy angry. Not at all. I've seen Otto get pissed off a few times over stupid things, but nothing like anyone else gets mad. But nothing like George. Like he wasn't. He wouldn't insult somebody at a Wawa. It was nothing like that. He was.
Oh, he's
he
saying
was pretty
like
down to earth.
all of a sudden out of Wawa, he just breaks into a voice. You stupid cunt! What's wrong with you?
Evan,
You whore!
Evan.
You whore!
Oh, that's okay.
You filthy whore!
And tonight's episode is sponsored by
Yeah.
Tourette's syndrome.
Whore!
And ivory
Yeah,
soap.
But the thing about Otto was Carucci said also that Otto loved to. Otto would tell me the best stories about doing comedy, about how he basically quit school in the late 70s. He was basically being a street performer. He would start doing shows on the Staten Island Ferry, going back and forth on the Staten Island Ferry, then becoming a street performer in Times Square.
Wow.
At the time when New York City was really a mess. It was crime, prostitutes all over Times Square, the porno theaters, drugs.
Yeah, good times.
filth.
Good times.
And he was like a 16-year-old kid running around with a puppet, making pocket change.
Getting
And he was
stabbed.
telling me these great stories about just what he did and how he just made it through the day. And it was quite fascinating that someone his age had the balls to go quit school
Really?
and to do that.
You don't see that much these days.
Oh, no, not at all. And he told me one story that he went to L.A. They took a bus. It was him and some other comedians, some black guy, his friend of his. They saved up money. They took a bus all the way to L.A. to do comedy. And as soon as they got there, they got off the bus, they dropped the hat on the street, and they start doing street performing.
Yeah.
But in L.A., it's illegal.
Ah,
They get arrested within like 10 minutes of getting to L.A.
wow.
All right, and Otto had money sewn into his pants pocket, enough money to get back home. So they spent like the night in jail, and they had to take a bus all the way back home because they were busted. They were,
Wow.
all the shit was gone.
Doug's been
Yeah, but
arrested
he-
for performing before.
That's different type of performing.
But he would tell me the best, just these crazy, stories, and plus celebrities he met. He
Stop,
actually opened
stop.
up AC/DC in a theater for a weekend.
What?
He opened up for AC/DC in the theater in like 1979 before
Wow.
AC/DC was big, when they were doing these small theaters. He did a Friday and Saturday night with AC/DC. The Friday night went horrifically awful.
Really?
And the Saturday night, Malcolm Young came out and introduced him like, you better listen to this guy. So he actually opened up for AC/DC in
That's
the theater.
awesome. That's amazing. Doug's a little AC/DC.
Say that again?
Go on. Listen, you reminded me of something though. Tom wanted to perform comedy on the New York ferry. Man, they wouldn't let him on the boat.
It was lopsided.
Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome. Yeah. I helped Doug with punchlines.
Yeah, who says you need punchlines in all you need to do is make people laugh.
So, Keith, on a different subject, have you seen our friend lately?
Which one?
The bus person?
The who?
Leonora.
Way to
Oh,
keep it
no,
a
I
secret.
haven't run into her. She's not working in New Brooklyn no more. Last time I
No,
seen
but
her, I think was up in that show for Losner up in Little Ferry or something.
Yeah,
She
right.
all right? How is she?
She's good. I saw her. She posted something about her going into the city, so I thought she might have bumped into you again.
What do you have?
Oh, no, I would see her very seldom on the bus.
What am I
Hey, you
missing?
guys know this show is about Otto and George,
That's
right?
true. I forgot.
What is
about
this?
that.
Who's
Leonora,
who is
Leonora
this
used
bus
to be
person?
my district manager who traveled into into where would she go? The Bronx, Brooklyn, 4 times a week on the bus at 4 a.m, and she shared the same bus with Keith. So
Great story, Tom. Move on.
Yeah. Let's go.
No, let's go back.
I hope George.
Let's go back. What time are you? What bus number?
I hope George raped her.
Oh my God.
Evan,
What?
this is the third time you're going to
She was a whore.
back to the
A
show.
whore.
Tommy, how's the gout?
Put him on the list.
The gout's good. You know, I got to talk to you after the show.
Stop.
I've been doing a lot better lately.
And this episode is brought to you by CBD oil. If you want a miracle oil for your life, contact Tom at
At this point, George is killing himself.
Actually, Tom, I want to congratulate you for your movement towards health
Lenore was a
and
whore.
losing weight. Are you channeling?
I
I
ho-
know.
I
Stop
hope-
it, George.
I hope Lenore has gout.
Oh my God.
This is why I brought the harmonica.
I hope she's not watching.
Like, Doug, what did you bring a harmonica for? This is why. So in 5 minutes, we're going to have Chips Cooney on, Keith. But you're welcome to be with us until then.
So Keith, you were early on in your career when you hooked up with Otto, right?
Oh yeah, I literally doing comedy like a friggin' 2 months. I met. It was just a weird fluke. I met him.
Wow.
No, and he just threw me into the lions of comedy. I learned really fast and hard through Otto.
Yeah. Well, that's
But we were just friends more than anything because like Carucci said earlier, he never wanted to talk comedy. And the one time I asked him, I said, why me? Why you take me around with you? He goes, well, you don't ask me about comedy. You don't bust my balls about comedy. We were talking about different things.
Wow.
He just wanted to, be like, just hang out and talk about normal shit because he would always have comedians coming up to him asking for favors or, wanting stuff out of him. And he didn't want to deal with that.
Now, I've noticed that the more seasoned comics are typically like that. They don't want to always be joking when they're talking to other comics on, when they're not on stage.
No, I think they got a life, and that's why I pictured. That's why I found out from him early on is that the best thing about Otto is don't talk about comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but unless he would talk about various, he would love talking about the Three Stooges and Laurel and Hardy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he never liked talking about the business of comedy.
But wasn't
He always told me it was a horrible business, which we don't know what it is.
Wasn't he a big fan of like serial killers and all that too?
What?
Otto.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
But wasn't Otto into like serial killers and all that too?
Into what?
Serial killers.
Serial killers.
No, he loved movies. He knew everything about movies. And the one thing when I was down in Florida with him, I pitched an idea to him about Otto and George review the movies because he knew everything about movies. He knew who directed it, knew everything about it.
Yeah.
And his eyes lit up like he never thought of it. And we were going to start on it, but it never got to him doing it. But actually, Trish, his girl, they got to the point where they made an introduction for Otto and George review the movies. Because that was one thing he wanted to do. Because he was a big movie fan. He loved the movie. He was watching them all day long, and he knew everything about it.
Wow. Now, do you know how old he was when he dropped out of school? Or what grade he was in?
He dropped. He was like 16, 15,
All right.
16 years old.
Because I do a lot of work with Uncle Floyd, and that was about the age that he dropped out of school to go into entertainment.
Yeah. So he dropped out when he had to be like 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
He dropped out. But that was his passion. He loved that puppet. He got a puppet when he was a kid. That was his whole. From the time he got that puppet, he was like probably 8 years old, 9 years old.
Wow.
And that was his passion.
Well,
And he told you, and one thing he always said is he always felt him being successful to him is able to make a living doing what he did. So being a street performer, making a living, paying his bills, he felt successful.
well,
He wasn't felt like he had to have a mansion and yacht.
Absolutely. Well, Keith, thanks for calling in. I think we have another caller coming. Is that what we
All right,
very
I'm
soon.
listening for Chips. All right, fellas, have a good night.
Thanks
All right,
again
thanks.
for calling. And listen, comedy fans, if you are in the neighborhood of Bergenfield, Saturday, February 8th is going to be a wonderful show with Mike Gaffney, Jackie Byrne, and Joe Fernandez, all comics we know, all comics we love. Wonderful place produced by J. Irwin Productions. That'll be at St. John's Conlin Hall. in Bergenfield. So look at the J. Irwin Productions Facebook page, and you'll get details on that upcoming show, February 8th.
All right. Keith, love you. Talk to you later. You already hung up.
Yeah.
I've been hung up before. So anyway, while we're on plugs and while we're waiting for our next caller,
Please.
I have a show on Thursday this week, and I'm going to be down at the Blue Earl Brewing Company in Smyrna, Delaware. And I'm opening for the Reverend Bob Levy, and I'll be working with Al Carroll, another funny comic. And then Saturday, February 8th, Pizzeria Uno in Clifton on Route 3, opening for Mario Gentile, sharing the stage with Paul Goldberg, and Brendan Jones will be emceeing.
Very nice.
Oh, Brendan Jones. I think he's done my shows.
Probably.
Yeah.
Jonesy?
And I will be performing February 15th at the lovely Broadway Comedy Club. At
yes.
what time will I maybe be on, Evan?
The show's 6 to about 8:30.
6 to about 8:30.
6 to 8:30.
So I will be the what am I going to be on that show? I will be the feature, maybe.
You'll be on the show.
Maybe.
Okay?
Maybe.
You'll be on the show.
Maybe
Okay.
I'll be on
He'll
the
be
show.
taking tickets at the door.
And I'll be having shows most Saturdays, either Greenwich or Broadway Comedy Club at 6 p.m. Go to Evan Weiss Comedy Square. And also I have a show Saturday, February 15th in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And it's at the Holiday Inn at 200 Teague Street, Dunmore, Pennsylvania. Go to ScrantonComedyClub.com. 2 for $20 tickets. I'll be
Wow.
opening up for Stacy Pressman, also on the show,
Wow.
Kevin LaPica, and Brian Walsh.
Nice.
Wow.
It's a great show.
Nice.
Well, listen, you're worth the 2 for $20 all by yourself.
Yes, it's going to be a
And
fun
we
show.
didn't give you your proper props. Evan is a big time New York comedy producer
Yeah.
Yes,
and comedian.
I'm a comedian.
And he's a big time big comedian.
Well,
He's just big.
I'm going to go to Weight Watchers soon, too. Stop using the word big. I'm kidding.
You're going to go to Weight Watchers. Tom is going to Weight Watchers. I'm not gonna be able to see any of you guys.
And I promise
time
no
at all.
Holocaust jokes tonight.
Thank you, Evan. That was the promise. That was the promise he made. Stop, Evan.
So
You don't have to
You
apologize.
made a promise
Stop.
to your dad.
You made a
No-
promise. I
your
like
dad.
Now,
that.
oddly enough,
You almost kept your promise. too.
today is the birthday of the actor John Banner, who played Sergeant Schultz.
I know nothing.
Sergeant Schultz on Hogan's Heroes.
I know nothing. Who was based on the wonderful sergeant from Stalag 17.
Yes.
The movie with Otto Preminger.
Yep.
And who else was in that movie?
What's his name? Peter Graves was the turncoat, the German
Oh,
plant.
yes. I remember.
Right.
Yep.
Yep.
Is Chips calling in? We're waiting on Chips.
Chips is calling in.
Is it waiting on Chips?
We're waiting on Chips.
You know what goes well
Oh,
with Chips?
what?
A song.
Milk.
Waiting on Chips. You guys sing, and I'm going to play the
Waiting
harmonica.
on Chips.
This is Waiting on Chips.
Waiting on Chips.
That'd be a great show.
Waiting on Chips. You know what goes good with Chips is milk. Milk and chips. Milk, chips.
This is what we've sunk to,
and
ladies and
chips.
gentlemen.
It could have been a saxophone, which
could
would
have
be
been.
better, which is funnier.
Doug does practice safe sex.
How did you stay so skinny your whole life? You never got to become a fat fucks like us.
It's mostly from drinking coffee in the morning and not eating lunch until I get hungry and feel lightheaded around 3 or 4. And then also worrying about things you don't need to worry about, like little details. Like what oil do I put in my car? Should I get the expensive
CBD
air
oil.
filter?
CBD.
Do you know what actually, it might be a good auto lubricant. Probably
think?
pretty expensive.
It'll cure all their all the car's ailments.
It's fully synthetic. That's good.
Anyway, if you were wondering, I do sell CBD oil and hemp products.
Do you really?
Yes, I
Is
do.
that legal?
Yes, it's legal.
And thank God we have a phone call. Hello, caller. You're on with
I
Funny
won-
Talk.
I
and
wonder who it is.
Mangelli and Max and Evan Weiss. And
Who could that be?
who could this be? Hello, caller.
Is that Chips?
Huh? Chips.
Yeah.
We know you're there. How are you, buddy?
Who is this?
This is Doug, Chips.
Oh, Doug. Okay.
Yeah, you're on with Tom, and Evan Weiss is in the studio too.
Hey, Chips, how you doing?
Chips,
It's Tom.
how are you?
All right. How's everybody doing?
Good.
We're good. We
we're
just
doing
heard
great.
from Keith Carnevale and Rich Carucci talking about Otto and George, and we know you know Otto probably better than anybody. Well, way up there. So
Right. No. Yeah, okay.
so tell us about Otto.
Huh?
Tell us about Otto from Otto and George.
Okay, you're breaking up.
Tell us about Otto from Otto and George.
Turn down your
Otto.
radio.
What did you say? Tell you what?
Tell us about Otto.
Tell us your connection. Yeah,
He was around 5'8". He weighed about 185 pounds. And
I'm gonna pee my
he wore jeans and sneakers.
and he liked
And
peanut butter.
he didn't wear a hat. Once in a while, he would wear a hat. He didn't drive. He had no driver's license.
Oh, really?
And he smoked crack.
And he was going for one. And he went to school in Brooklyn. What else you want to know?
What was his favorite food?
Did he ever do comedy?
His favorite food, I tell you what he used to make that was good. Meatloaf.
Made a good
He was good at
meatloaf.
making meatloaf. He used to make it maybe a couple times a year. It was
Okay.
really good the way he did it. His favorite foods, he liked gyros.
Did he use meat?
Huh?
Did he use meat?
What do you mean, did he use meat?
It's Doc. Chips, ignore him. This is the guy running the studio behind the scenes. He comes in. He's not following.
He what?
He doesn't have a clue.
You keep breaking up. What the fuck you guys in the basement?
So tell us your connection with Otto.
I'm sorry, what?
Tell us your connection with Otto.
How was it?
You got to turn off your Facebook if you want to hear
He
us.
knows. He's playing.
I'm on the cell phone.
Okay.
Tell us a story about Otto.
You used
Oh, Jesus Christ, man. There's a million stories. Wow. I don't know. He was a good person.
yeah.
And he was very hip on people. He knew what was going on with people. As soon as he would talk to them or look at them, he would know. Because he worked on the streets all his life since he was 14, 13 to 14 on the streets of Manhattan. He used to take the ferry over from Staten Island and used to work the streets in New York as a young kid.
That was
And he was very hip, I guess the word you would use, on people. He knew people right away.
yeah.
You couldn't put some over on him. Never.
It must have taken a lot of guts to do that on the streets at his age, at that age.
Yeah. And he never had another job. That's all he ever did.
Really.
Yeah, he just showbiz, and that's what he did. And he was a good person. Got nothing bad to say about it. I remember when 9/11 happened, somebody called me up and they said, "You got to put the TV on." And I put the TV on, and I saw the planes hitting, coming in, and Otto was sleeping. And I woke him, Otto, banging on his door. What is it? I said, "You got to come out here, see what's on TV." He says, "It better be good." And came out and saw it.
Wow.
We're getting static behind the scenes here.
Excuse me, Doc. We can hear everything that's going on back in the control room. Could you turn off your mic back there, please? We still hear you. We're
Who's this,
not
Tom?
used to people laughing during our show.
Yeah, it's breaking up our timing.
Who am I talking to?
I'm Tom. When
Yeah,
I-
it is Tom. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
when I-
getting all confused here.
When I work overtime, I'm Tom and a half.
You're right for not laughing at that, Chips. He thinks
the
that's
what?
funny.
He's got a delay on his side. He's hearing us 2 minutes later because he's got his Facebook on.
I don't know if you have sound coming on, Chips, you can turn it off. But anyway, we didn't give Chips his proper due. Chips was on America's Got Talent. He was a finalist in America's Got Talent. He's a staple of New Jersey comedy. I don't know a local comedian that doesn't know and love Chips. I had the privilege of working on a radio show with him for years in a prior comedy life.
And Chips and I are going to be working together in February, right, Chips?
Yeah, what's that, 21st or something?
Something
I got it
like
written
that.
down on the calendar.
Yeah, it's going to be in Riverdale, New Jersey, and we have Paul Bond on that show also,
Yeah, that should be fun.
and Gerald Benford.
We always have fun before.
Yep. So it should be a
Is
good
it-
show.
All right.
So, Chips, I wanted to ask you also. So I asked the others, do you know where the character George came from? How did Otto, I don't know how old were you, or was he when you met him?
What do you say? Well, you asked me two questions.
I
What
probably asked you
happened?
four.
What did you want to know?
How old were you? How old was Otto when you met him?
25.
Wow.
Okay, so he had been doing it for over 10 years then, or about 10 years.
Yeah, at least 25, 24, something like that.
Yeah, and
23, 24.
And you two
I met
actually.
him at a place called Good Times in New York.
Okay.
And he was pretty, people knew him then.
Uh huh.
And what else did he ask? He asked something else after that.
He's saying, did the character come from like a dark place?
The what?
The character, did it come from a place from? Did it come from somewhere? The dark character.
The name came from his uncle.
Okay.
And like
His last name.
and like the actual character, do you think it came?
Dudley, yeah. It came from his uncle. That was his uncle's name.
George
he named
Dudley.
the dummy after
And
him.
do you think the character came from like a dark place from his mind? That's what he's trying to get?
No, I don't know if it's a dark place. It's a funny place.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Now you
It's a funny
actually
place.
you actually shared an apartment with him at one point, didn't you?
Yeah, he called me up one time. He said, "Can you come and pick me up? The landlady is giving me a hard time. She's going to have her son beat me up."
Oh.
So I didn't ask him why, and I said, "Yeah, I'll come there." I went to Queens. I picked him up, and that's when he moved in.
All right. And
And
how?
he moved in with me. We won two places, and then he moved after that. After a while, he moved in with his girl.
Okay. So
What kind of roommate was he?
Huh?
What kind of roommate was he?
He was a good roommate. Paid his fucking rent.
That's good.
that's the bottom line.
That's the best fucking roommate you can have.
Really.
They pay their rent.
Anyway,
And,
Chips.
go
Chips,
ahead.
we're very near the end of our show. So while you're on air, I want to let everybody know that you've expressed interest and willingness to call in periodically and entertain us with some characters. So I want people to know that if you tune in, you'll be hearing from Chips more regularly, we hope. So we're very pleased about that.
And you have to know, Chips, you have 3 fans right here sitting at the table listening to you. Big fans.
Who?
Me, Doug,
This
and
is
Evan.
terrible. This is the worst setup voices I ever heard in my life.
Thank you for
I
calling
can't fucking
in.
hardly understand you.
Thank you.
You
It
and
doesn't
everything
matter.
in the background.
It's always the same, Chips, but we can hear you fine. So it works out.
Oh, okay. All right. As long as you can hear me.
If you could hear us, it would only make the show worse. That's That's what our fan tells us all the time, Kathy.
Well, I'm glad you had me on this radio show. I enjoyed it.
Well, we're glad. We're
any
glad
other questions you want to know?
Give him a math question.
Huh?
If a train is traveling east at 40 miles an hour and another train is traveling west at 60 miles an hour, what's the capital of Nevada?
The capital of Nevada is, wait a minute. Shoot. Capital of Nevada.
He's Googling it.
Yeah, I know.
What is it? Is it Reno?
No.
It's not Las Vegas.
No.
No,
What else?
Las
What other
Vegas
city is in Nevada?
Las Vegas is in Nevada. The capital of Carson City.
Carson City is the capital.
I was going to guess the Pink Pussycat Ranch.
No.
That was my next.
But I did learn that from a
Carson
Bugs
City.
Bunny episode.
The pink cowboy
Pussycat.
Pussycat Ranch.
No,
That was in
no,
Bugs
Carson
Bunny.
City. Carson City is the capital of Nevada. That's where I learned it. Bugs Bunny.
All right, you got it.
Wow.
What else did you want to know?
Who were some of Otto's influences
Good question.
in comedy?
How many what?
Who were some of Otto's comedy influences?
He liked George Carlin.
Okay.
He liked a lot of Abbott and Costello. He liked a lot of. He picked some funny people out. Who else did he like? As far as people like that go, big stars. He liked George Carlin. He liked Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
He liked Lenny Bruce.
Okay.
You know, he knew what was funny, Otto. He died, and it's hard to find somebody to really talk to anymore like I used to talk to him.
Yeah.
You know, because he knew what was going on, and he wasn't a bullshitter. Otto was not a bullshitter, that's for sure. He told you how he felt, and he never lied about it.
Okay. Yeah. You see, I never met the man, but I always felt that he was a straight shooter, like you're saying.
Yeah, this is Tom, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking to Tom?
Yeah. This is Tom.
Yeah, he was a straight shooter. You would have liked him.
Yeah.
He had, he just had nothing good to say. You know, if he didn't like somebody, he wouldn't bother with them.
Right.
But he wasn't nasty to them either.
So he
just wouldn't bother with you.
He wouldn't have bothered with Doug then.
Hey.
Huh?
He wouldn't have bothered with Doug.
With what?
With Doug.
Me. He's saying he wouldn't like me, but I think he would have liked me fine. So there.
He would like you. Why wouldn't he not like you?
Because Tom said he wouldn't like me. And Tom can be an idiot at times. Tom, he can be an idiot.
I thought I was just talking to Tom.
You were. He's an idiot, though.
Doug chimed in when I made fun of him. Listen, Chips, we love that you called in.
Thank you for
so
calling in.
much.
Thank you.
We need
Thanks for having me there.
Thanks for being had. We need to wrap.
Anytime.
Okay, how about a week from Tuesday?
Anytime.
All right, we'll be in touch.
Thank you, Chips. The great Chips Cooney, everyone.
Cooney, everyone.
And the
Take
great
care.
Evan Weiss is
Thank you
leaving
guys
the
for having
studio.
me.
Thank you, Evan.
Thank you, Evan.
Evan Weiss, everybody. Look for him on Facebook. Find his comedy shows. Go to them. Look for J. Irwin Productions on Facebook. Find his comedy shows. Go to them. Same with Tom Mangelli. Don't go
All
to my
right.
comedy shows. Yeah, don't go. You will. I don't know what it is.
All right, we need to sign off. Our time is up. Thanks for tuning in to Funny Talk with Mangelli and Max. Doug is playing his harmonica. He's good with the mouth organs. And we will see you next time. We're on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month.
Thank you. Night, everybody. Wow. Should we say wow again? Are we off?